The late summer sun hung like molten gold in the sky, its blazing light seeping even through the fine silk parasol shielding Lin Xuemei's head. Sweat dampened her thin gown, and the once delicate embroidery on her shoes was now dulled with a thin crust of dust. Each step wavered, her frail body threatening to collapse at any moment. Seeking refuge, she leaned against the cool stone wall in the secluded rear courtyard. As she steadied her breath, a faint sob drifted from the latticed window of the neighboring hall. Curiosity pricked, Xuemei moved closer. Inside, seated gracefully upon a rosewood stool, was her cousin Lin Xueyan, daughter of the main wife, famed beauty of Qinghe County, beloved pearl of the Lin household. Even while weeping into a silk handkerchief, her almond-shaped eyes shimmered delicately, like dew trembling on peach blossoms. Xuemei arched her brow. If such a pampered jewel has reason to weep, then an overlooked concubine's daughter such as myself may as well return to the underworld. Wait, return? Xuemei touched her own forehead in disbelief. Indeed. Had she not perished already? Only yesterday, she remembered collapsing at her work desk in the modern capital. Yet upon waking, she found herself inhabiting the frail body of second Miss Lin, a minor character from a tale she once skimmed, a girl destined for early death, wedded to a poor scholar whose brilliance blossomed after her passing. Inside the hall, Xueyan's weeping grew more dramatic. I will not accept it, she declared, lips trembling like a jade flute's edge. I desire to wed Li Heng, not that sickly son of the Wens. Should grandmother refuse me this, I will simply fall ill again. Xuemei's pulse faltered. Li Heng? That was her fiancé, the very one who, in the book, had been gentle, devoted, a man who mourned her to the end of his days, and now her pampered cousin wanted to steal him. Matron Lin's cold rebuke followed. Wicked child. The Wen family has already sent brocades and jade in betrothal. A marriage once struck, how can it be changed on a girl's whim? Yet Xueyan, that honey-tongued phoenix, pressed forward with elegant reasoning. Mimi is fragile. She lacks polish and will invite ridicule in the capital. Only I can bring honor to our house. This change is natural. From her hidden spot, Xuemei nearly laughed aloud. Natural? Only in the mind of a reborn schemer, determined to escape her own bitter fate, for she recalled clearly, the book had said Xueyan's marriage was to Marquis Wen Shua, son of General Wen. Though handsome as carved jade, he was colder than winter frost, never offering her so much as a glance in years of wedlock. Xueyan had withered in neglect, mocked until she returned to the countryside in shame, while Xuemei, frail cousin, had died young. This was Xueyan's plan, seize Xuemei's good husband for herself, and push her cousin into the lion's den. But Xuemei was no fool. That very night, lying in her desolate chamber while her stepmother muttered curses outside, she smiled faintly into the darkness. A cold husband, a grand estate, resplendent meals, and no quarrels? If I play the role of fragile wife, obedient and silent, when the Marquis loses patience, he will release me with property in hand. Her lips curved as a whisper fell into the night air. Very well, cousin. I accept this exchange. On the day of the wedding, there were no gongs, no drummers, no lively bridal processions spilling down the lane. Only a quiet red palanquin, shadowed by a few servants, wound its way discreetly toward the Wen estate. Lin Xuemei, wrapped in bright scarlet bridal robes, sat composed beneath the red veil, savoring the tranquility. To her, the Wen family's cold indifference was a blessing. The less noise, the easier my retreat. Her plan was simple. Speak little, appear wan, feign weakness, live unnoticed, and eventually be dismissed in peace, with a severance courtyard and warm tea as company. For in the book, Marquis Wen Shua remained on campaign for 3 years after the wedding, seldom sending word, treating his newlywed wife as a shadow. Such neglect was the very peace Xuemei desired. Thus, when she arrived at Moon Pavilion, her appointed courtyard, she gladly welcomed the silence of the maids and the absence of merriment. Taking her first meal, soaking her feet in warm water, Xuemei leaned back and murmured with relief, 3 years of idle life. I thank you kindly, heaven. But her blessing dissolved the instant the pavilion's gates slammed open and a voice as sharp as a blade cut through the courtyard. Stand aside. Xuemei startled. The maids dropped to their knees, and there he stood Wen Shua. Battle cloak still dusty from the frontier, eyes cold as winter steel, aura fierce as a wolf surveying prey. Xuemei's heart plummeted to her shoes. Impossible. In the book, you should be far away, yet those piercing eyes fell directly on her. He strode forward, boots soundless yet thunderous, and with a gloved hand, lifted her chin. "This is the wife they gave me?" Xiaomei bent delicately, folding her hands. "Wife greets the Marquis." His eyes, deep and unreadable, searched her expression. Then, to her horror, he murmured, "You are not afraid." She coughed softly, hunched with practiced fragility. Am I not? My lord, I am a dying willow in autumn winds. One sneeze may send me away." Silence. His gaze lingered. Then, beyond all expectation, the icy lips curved. A laugh, low, fleeting, yet real. Xiaomei was thunderstruck when Shoa released her and stepped back with lazy grace. "Very well. Let us see how long this frail willow survives." The next morning, Xiaomei awoke to birdsong and a soft breeze, only to find 3 unfamiliar maids watching her as though she were a rare beast in a scholar's collection. She blinked and said lightly, "I am not a restless ghost. You may speak." One maid quickly bowed. "Madam, the Marquis departed at dawn. He commanded the kitchens to double your meals. You are too thin," he said. Xiaomei's hand froze mid-stretch. "Too thin?" The Marquis, concerned. "This script is entirely wrong." Moments later, delicate buns, rich porridge, and fragrant pancakes were set before her. She eyed the spread warily and murmured under her breath, "If this be a snare, it is pleasingly baited." By midday, duty compelled her to present herself before the Dowager Madam. The great lady of the Wen clan sat regal upon a high seat, jade comb glinting in her silver hair, surrounded by younger wives and cousins whispering behind fans. Xiaomei bowed with practiced grace, offering the right words in a voice tremulous but clear. At once, the cousins began to probe. "How fortunate, sister-in-law, that the Marquis has returned so early. Surely the bride is joyous." Xiaomei smiled serenely. Indeed, what bride would not be pleased? Yet whispers rose. The Marquis rarely suffers company. Even His Majesty has waited for replies. The Dowager narrowed her gaze, silencing idle gossip with one glance. Let matters lie. Perhaps heaven decrees change for this house. Xiaomei's heart beat uneasily. Change is exactly what I do not want. As she departed, the hushed chatter of maids followed her. They say the Marquis sought Master Yi to examine her pulse. That famed physician? Who only treats the noble few? He declared her health frail, but curable. And the Marquis replied, "That suffices. I have no need for a ghost bride." Xiaomei stumbled so sharply, she nearly tore her slipper. And oh, need for a ghost bride? Sir, you're supposed to want nothing at all. That night, back in the solitude of Moon Pavilion, she devised one sole decree: avoid the Marquis, appear weak, keep silent. But as midnight bells faded, a servant knocked softly. "Madam," came the report, "the Marquis asks if you yet sleep." Xiaomei flung herself dramatically into bed, pulling the blanket high. With her most fragile sigh, she whispered, "Tell him, this humble one suffers dizziness. Perhaps I shall not last the night." The servant hesitated before delivering the words outside to pause. Then, when Shoa's low laughter, like a distant thundercloud, rolled through the night, "Let her sleep. The longer she endures, the better." Xiaomei grit her teeth beneath the covers. This was no indifferent ice husband. This was a wolf circling his quarry. The first days in Moon Pavilion were deceptively tranquil. Every dawn, gentle maids set down trays bearing delicate dishes, deer-horn broth, lotus seed congee, and bird's nest boiled with rock sugar. Even the chopsticks were carved of rose quartz, polished till they gleamed. Xiaomei would sit there quietly, sipping soup, watching the steam curl like soft clouds, muttering dryly to herself, "Such effort to feed a woman you plan to ignore, yet heaven must be mocking me. My cold husband is both dutiful and watchful." What unsettled her was this: though when Shoa was absent much of the day, summoned by imperial commands, or overseeing drills at the barracks, a shadow of his presence never left. Servants hovered with reports. The young madam drank all the ginseng decoction. The young madam walked 3 paces in the garden before she tired. The young madam coughed twice, lightly with grace. Each report was sent to him as if she were a battlefield under surveillance. At first Xiaomei felt pleased her act was effective. Then she overheard a guard whisper, "The Marquis listens more keenly to her well-being than to His Majesty's orders." Her chopstick nearly snapped in half. More troubling were his glances. In the evenings, when fate conspired to place them in the same courtyard, he would pause, eyes like frost-covered steel surveying her. Silent. Weighing her as though she were not wife, but puzzle point one such night, When the moon flooded the pavilion, she purposefully clutched her chest and leaned weakly against a plum tree, coughing with the sorrowful fragility of a plum blossom about to fall. "Ill, most ill," she whispered, dramatically failing at breathing. Boots crunched behind her. His presence pressed upon her like a storm on still water. "Madam," when Shua's voice came low, calm, threaded with amusement he did not bother to hide, "has the physician prescribed new tonics?" Xiuemei fluttered her lashes innocently, weak as a passing breeze. "Alas, my malady is incurable. Perhaps 3 winters remain to me. No, perhaps only 2 moons." She gave a forlorn cough for effect, a long silence. Then when Shua said softly, lips curving, "Then let us see whether you will endure 4. Xiuemei nearly choked on air. 4 winters? From that night, she realized, this man would not allow her peaceful vanishing, though an estate was a tapestry woven of sharp tongues, and the silken shade of galleries. Servants bent their heads together and whispered. The Marquis summoned a painter to capture her likeness in morning light. "Did you not see?" He ordered the kitchens to serve her medicinal cakes bound with amber honey. Such devotion, yet the madam is weak, weak as withering reed. Xiuemei despised these murmurs. To her, each rumor was a torch, setting fire to her quiet plan. She longed to remain unseen, unheard, forgotten. But in the corridors, young maids snickered as she passed. The Marquis carried the madam's cloak himself at twilight. Upside down, the world truly was determined. Xiuemei doubled her efforts. She feigned headaches until her temples throbbed from pressing her hands there so often. She sipped bitter medicines with a pitiful curl of her lips. When leaning gracefully against pillars, she perfected the look of a trembling willow. Alas, when Shua was her undoing. Once, she collapsed too artfully across the veranda, a handkerchief falling dramatically from her hand. The maids gasped. When Shua, arriving at that moment, folded his arms and stared, at length he drawled, "If your frailty is so profound, I shall instruct the physician to provide a sedan chair within Moon Pavilion. Then, madam, you may faint thrice daily without exhausting yourself with the journey to another pillar." Xiuemei's pale act dissolved into smothered indignation. "Ah, villain! He mocks me so openly, yet smiles as if amused by my torment." From then on she performed her frailty cautiously, always fearing to become a jester on his private stage. Meanwhile, far from Moon Pavilion, Lin Shuiyan's own fate began unraveling like an embroidered sleeve snared on thorns. She had seized her prize, Li Heng, the gentle scholar once destined for Xiuemei. At first, the match seemed bliss itself. He was courteous, mild, and smiled warmly as he recited verses by lamplight. In his gaze, she saw admiration, though it was tinged with something distant, but quickly her illusions frayed. Li Heng had the devotion of a man to his late wife in the last life, the fragile Xiuemei who had died too soon. In this life, his polite attentions never carried heat. The longer they dwelled together, the more Xiuyan felt as if she lived beside a shrine, not a husband. Her beauty, once praised in every hall, failed to stir more than courtesy from him. When servants whispered, "The young master studies deep into the night," she knew the truth. His heart was elsewhere, in a shadow of the woman she had displaced. Worse, her arrogance clashed with his quiet nature. Gowns of brocade, lavish banquets. He grew uncomfortable, preferring ink scrolls and plain tea. Slowly, gossips began to murmur. Li Heng's wife is sharp-tongued, unlike his gentle manner. She shines outwardly, but in the scholar's heart, she cannot compare to the memory of a concubine's daughter long dead. Xiuyan, unaccustomed to neglect, burned with jealousy. Night after night, staring at her reflection, she asked herself, why? I rewrote fate. I chose differently. Why am I still losing? And so, though her path unfolded apart from Moon Pavilion, bitterness fermented in silence, unseen yet seething. The mid-autumn festival rose upon the capital. Across the estate, lanterns floated like jewels among the branches, warm light softening tile rooftops and carved balustrades. Xiuemei, summoned reluctantly to join the family feast, dressed in pale green robes embroidered with silver chrysanthemums. Sitting beneath the pavilion, moonlight washing her face, she imagined herself another fragile ornament, unremarkable as long as she spoke little. The laughter of younger cousins rang, the rustle of silk sleeves filled the air. Xiuemei was content to sip tea in silence, until when Shou appeared at her side. Carrying a lantern shaped like plum blossoms, he sat without asking leave. Handing it to her, his tone brooked no refusal. In our lineage, husband lights a lantern for his wife. Take it. Xiume blinked, startled. My lord, surely custom allows a steward to lighten your stead? He arched a brow, voice as dry as autumn wind. Do you seek to outsource even your marriage? Her lips opened, then closed. Around them, servants bit back smiles, while relatives watched, whispering to one another of the cold Marquis who had unexpectedly grown warm beside his sickly bride. Xiume bowed her head, silence her last defense. But her fingers tightened slightly around the lantern's handle, warmth blooming in her chest despite her scolding heart. Foolish. Do not be swayed. He is a storm cloud. Storms do not linger forever. The capital's court was restless. Factions rose. Whispers wound through jade halls. The emperor watched every officer as though balancing scales of heaven and earth. Among them, when Shua's loyalty bore weight. His sudden recall from the frontier signaled shifting tides. Allies sought to test his household. Enemies searched for weaknesses, and there, delicate as calligraphy on silk, was Xiume. Noble Marquis, whispered a visiting envoy. Your wife seems frail. Too frail to continue your line. Others sowed hints. Perhaps the marriage was unwise. Would another bride not suit the one house? Xiume, overhearing fragments in corridors, fumed inwardly. First ignored, now displayed like political chess? Heaven mocks me indeed, but she had not expected when Shua's decisive strike. Before the dowager, before gathered kin and guests, he declared, voice steely. This wife was chosen by fate and sealed by rights. Whoever questions her insults not only my household, but my judgment as when Shua. She is mine. And so long as she endures, so shall our marriage. The silence that followed was heavy as mountain stone. Xiume bowed, hiding her astonishment. Why do you guard me thus? Seasons turned. Xiume, despite her best efforts at feigning weakness, could not stifle the flush of health creeping into her cheeks. Her appetite grew, no longer half-bowls but full. Her laughter slipped out unexpectedly in quiet courtyards. Servants whispered, "The madam grows fairer by the day." One night, when Shua returned early, entering her chamber silently, he found her bent over a scroll, lips curved as if in amusement at a line of poetry. You read? He asked, startling her. Xiume hid the scroll hastily. Merely idle scrawls, my lord. He stepped closer, gaze piercing. You have pretended long enough. Her throat tightened. Pretended? My lord, I am weak. A dying plum blossom, enough. His voice cut through softly, but with finality. You are no weak flower. Your wit betrays itself in every word. Your step betrays strength where none should exist. Tell me, Xiume, who are you truly? She bit her lip. How could she confess she was not the girl he was promised, but a reborn soul from another world? How could words suffice, seeing her silence, when Shua's expression eased unexpectedly? His lips curved in that faint near smile, rare as snow in summer. Never mind. Whoever you are, whatever face you wore before, it matters not. His gaze lingered, weighty, resolute. You are mine now. Then he turned away, leaving Xiume's world unsteady, caught between relief and something warmer that unfolded dangerously within her chest. Winter receded at last, and spring unfolded with peach blossoms painting the courtyards in hues of blush. Moon Pavilion no longer lay cloaked in silence. Warmth filled its corridors, gentle laughter spilled between walls. Xiume sat by the window, embroidering clumsy plum blossoms, while when Shua lingered nearby, reading dispatches idly as if court affairs were nuisances compared to the tilt of her smile. Beyond, the capital hummed with gossip. The Marquis' cold heart has thawed. The concubine's daughter, once frail, now blooms beneath his wing. Truly, destiny mocks human schemes. And in the Lin estate, Lin Shuiyan heard these whispers with bitterness steeped like old wine. She gazed at her scholar husband, who looked through her more often than at her, and realized her gamble had not won her heaven's favor after all. But in Moon Pavilion, life warmed, on a night perfumed with peach blossoms, when Shua laid aside politics, studying the woman who once had declared herself about to die any day. He chuckled softly. This was not the wife I was promised, but precisely the wife heaven owed me. Xiume looked at him, lips curving with reluctant fondness, and thought quietly, this was no longer the book's tale, this was mine.